All right, so we're gonna talk about cloning an array, right? So how do you do that?
You'll do system.array array copy, and then you do I had to look it up because I don't have what I wrote down for it.
So we have a topic called cloning array Java. So we have the method say clone. Are you referring to this one, Jude?
Yeah, no wait, that's not what I'm using. I'm using system.array copy. That's what I meant.
Oh,
So to copy array, not clone it.
so that's something different. That's not clone then.
Yeah.
So you use the wrong word then. So you talk about which one? System dot
Array copy.
array copy.
And then I did it in Java.
Yeah, you talk about this method.
Yes. And then you click
Okay,
sorry.
so let's look at the different then. So we have system dot array copy sourced. You could specify the index, right? You don't have to copy the whole set, right? So that's why it's different than clone, right? Clone is you clone the whole array, right? So where you want it to go to and the last index, right? Starting position is source. Starting position, actually this is starting position for the destination, and the length where how long you want to copy it to. Okay, so you could copy to different location of different array, like array size 10. You can take like from 1 to 5 to 6 to 10 of the destination. Make sense? Okay, let's test them. And we can review on how to declare an array, right? Do you need to turn off the first row right light? Then you can see. So let's make a directory name cs201 already there. So let's name array. So we gotta do public class arrays demo. All right, so system dot array copies, right? Array copy, and this is static, meaning you can just do system the class name dot right away, right? That means statics method. And let's declare an array first. So Brady showed us how to declare an array with the curly braces. Last time he mentioned that. So how do we do that? Again, let's say an array of names, student names. Right, so an array you have to do bracket, right? You can have it before or after, doesn't matter. Like you can have it like there too. Okay, so you can do just initialize their values right away, like with the curly braces. That's another way to create an array. Alright, so let's see, we have 4 students. So I create another array. Alright. Say a student. Which, this is another way to declare an array, right? New string, right? And you can specify the size. So this class I only allow 3 A students. Only 3 students can get an A, because array size is 3. Correct? Then if you have more than 3, is index of bounds. We can't, right? Because size 3. So I'm going to copy the student from list of student to a student. I mean, this is very good. Like out of 4, you have 3 A's, which is easy class, right? Good class. 4 student, 3 A's. So syntax. Object source. Source is, what should be the source in this case, guys? Source position. Zero. Starting from Brady, right? Brady. Object destination, which is why we say object, because these are objects, right? The arrays, we talk about that, right? So a students, the list of a students, and the index that you want to start, 0, and the length 3, right? Alright, so now last time we do for loop, but no one actually picked for each. You could do print out the list of a students, right? I mentioned a students. Each of the student, like you can name anything at this point, like a singular, right? Because each of a students, each of a student, that's called for each. After colon, each of a students, name like student or name, doesn't matter, it can be any values, because this is just each values from a student. Like print out the name of a students, and then same, we don't have to do for in I equal to 0, I less than the length, I plus plus, the same thing here. It's gonna print out the values out. That's when you're dealing with array, you can do this way for each loop. And then what you want to print, name. Make sense? Because for each value name in a student, you print name. Okay. So let's compile this. Oh, what's wrong? We have to set the path again. Export, right? Path equals $, path colon quotation location of UJDK. Okay. Errors. Oh, because that one could be empty, right? Initialize. This could be null, right? In this case, right? Because it's the class string, right? It never be initialized. Let me see if I do let's print out the students first. I think we can do DW, right? Escape, delete, okay. For student, I want to test if it because the initializing issue. But since we already initialized student names, right? So this should be okay. Or another issue. Not that then. Bad initializers. Yes. You're right. I have to keep the data type. Is it like that?
Switch around. It shows data first. So it would show string name, yeah, and colon student names.
Oh, syntax wrong. Switch around. Thank you. And then, okay. Still missing S. Okay. System.array is the problem now. So I think I have to say copy array, not array, right? Array copy.
Yeah.
All right. This should print just our student, right? So now we want a student to prove that it works, right? So I technically go to copy 3 line, y3y, and then paste and just change this to a student, right? Then we can print both a students all right, so so it works, right? So that's technically how you use the array copy. So what I'm going to do, I just go to print a title, then to make it easier to read, then we can distinguish student roster, and then student a students list okay. Congrats, ready?
Yeah, if only it was true.
All right.
Can I see the code?
Pretty much just declare arrays, initialize them, and another way to declare array without initialize, right? And then do array copy according to index. So let's see if I modify an index a little bit. So I could just say, hey, Brady, you no longer a, right? Change to Tom, John, right? So a student, I could just change the length to 2, just Tom and John, right? Those are A's, right? You can totally specify index where you want to start, maybe at 1. So let's run it. See that? Just Tom and John, only Tom and John. I can specify any location. The first one, no. Right? We talked about no last time, so we should be good. Why is no, right? Because object, when you declare. Questions? Alright, so let's talk about clone, right? How do we clone? Clone technically, you can just say dot clone. Like array, we have dot length, right? We also have arrays class, huh? But this is not array class, so this is not an array class, so don't be confusing. When I said array, like I want to clone student names. How do I clone? How do I clone? Student names. Student names dot clone. My question is, where do you get the method clone from? That's a good question for the test, I think. Let's create a test. Maybe I'll email to myself first. That's a good question for the test, right? So clone array dot clone. It's not a good one, right? Yeah, but at least it. So my question is, clone method, right? Is the method correct? Belongs to, what is the original class of clone method, right? That's a question. Okay, that's a good start. Yeah, we were talking about a string array, right? And that's why I said, okay, array is an object of string, right? So dot clone should coming from the string. Everybody agree? How many of you said yes? Let me see your hand. Hmm? Here, what is the original class of? Or what is the clone method belongs? What class does the clone method, the clone method belongs to, right? What is the original class is better? Or what's the parent? Object, right? Oops, where's my email?
That's a sign.
Huh?
That's a sign to not add on the text.
I used to be, I hit escape. And where is it? What happened when I hit escape? Is it gone? I close it?
Check your drafts. Put it in the drafts.
Great, thank you. What's the parent class of clone method, right? I think that's a better question, right? Does that make sense now? If I have the test with this question, is that something that you understand? I mean, if someone answers correctly, that means you understand. Unless you don't understand the concept, right? Test on CSC 201. You might, or you might not see this question. So it belongs to, first we know that clone actually come from string, which is a good start. But if you really look at string, Java doc, you will never find clone method in there. Why? Which is after chapter, I think we're gonna talk about inheritance concept soon. Don't recall what chapter, maybe 11, 12. So if you search for clone, you see that it's inherited from object. So that's why the original, when it's the original or the parent, we refer to object. This is the concept of inheritance. What is that? Your dad has a car, your dad has a house. You are the son who inherited the house and car from your dad. So that's a joke about Java. Why developer is so rich? You guys know the answer? Why developer is rich? Huh?
Inherited the money.
Me creator.
Huh?
He's a creator, I guess.
You guys want to be a developer? That's why you're here. Some of you may, right? So yeah, because they do inheritance all the time. They do inherit, yeah. Because inheritance is the best way to be rich fast, right? And we have to inherit in the program all the time. Which you will learn that topic, inheritance. How to inherit. When you write a program, you have to inherit. Right? You technically inherit it already, but you not know. Like this is an example of inheritance. You inherit the clone to use in the string. That's why clone originally is being created under object. And all the, like Hello World, you know, Hello World class that you create is actually inherited from object. You just not notice that. You inherit all the time. Like you never, what's the point of inheritance? You don't want to reinvent the wheel. Like now, I can just use method clone to, yeah, get the object back. And clone actually belongs to object. Return another object. Returns a copy of this object. That's it. So copy, pretty much, is returned. So I just need to declare, right, a string array. Copy student roster as an array, right? Because it's going to return, right? So we create two objects now. The two objects. We have this section in the textbook that talk more about this. Okay. Which is different than array copy that you just copy partially, right? So now let's see if we want to print y for y. So we gotta test print the copy student roster. So what do we have to change here, right? Correct? For each, right? There you go. We get a copy. 2 copies, right? So let's test something a little bit. Now my question next is, are we creating a copy or are we creating a pointer to the object?
It equals it. It makes them the same reference point. So it makes.
Like this is raster, original raster, right? And this is a copy raster, right? 2 arrays, right?
Yeah, it makes copy roster point to roster in the memory.
Right. So this one is student names, right? The first one is student names. The question is it like this copy, like this picture number 1, where the copy still raster? Or the picture number 2 is actually pointing to that instead of create another copy, right? So is it 1 or 2?
It's 2.
Is it picture 1 or picture 2? When we do that in a physical memory. You may not see that picture at all, right? All right, let's create a test question again. When you don't understand, I'd like to create the one on the test. And make sure you understand, right? Then you understand right away when it's going to be on the test. Right? So clone, right, and array. Test. The question is, a copy of an array with the same memory, right? Location, size has been created, right? So the question, right? We have what string? What's the name? Copy array. Okay, just make it simple. Equals to array dot clone, right? One or two. Two is what? A reference of a reference to array is created. When the following statement is executed. Okay, what happens, right? When the following statement is executed, that's the question, right? What happens to the CPU memory? What happened to the physical memory, right? Right. So 1 or 2, right? Everybody said 2, right? Huh? All right. You guys understand the question right now? So let's read. The method clone for class object perform a specific cloning operation. First, if the class of this object does not implement the interface clonable, to talk about something that we will cover but not now, that then a clone not supported exception is thrown. Note that all arrays are considered to implement the interface, and that the return type of the clone method of an array type is where T is any reference. I'm sure when you read this, you're just confusing more, because we will cover this. You will understand soon. Otherwise, this method creates a new instance of the class of this object and initialize the field exactly. A new instance of the class of this object and initializes all its field with exactly the contents of the corresponding field of this object. As if by assignment, the content of the fields are not themselves cloned. That is, the method performs a shallow copy of this object, not a deep copy operation. So it's 2. So shallow copy is 2, deep copy is 1. Now, this whole thing you can find in the textbook. Okay, let me show you. Then at least you can start to go back home and read more to understand in a not shallow understanding but deep understanding. So 201 what? 05, right? Course documents. I want to show you. You can technically search for the keyword shallow copy from the textbook too. And or clone too. Alright, here you go. So let's talk about, now we know that when we use .clone, it's already, the document said we use shallow copy, right? Alright, so let's look at this guy. Yeah, you talk about clone, see that? House1.clone, see? This is also cloning a object of the house, right? An object of the house. You just, now if you remember, clone always return what? Object. That's why we have to cast back to house. Okay. So now we gonna look at, this is referred to, okay. House 1 and house 2 are two different objects with identical contents. The clone method in the object class copies each field from original object to the target object. If the field is of a primitive type, its value is copied. We already understand primitive type, right? We talked about last time. For example, the value of area double type is copied from house 1 or house 2, right? If we have the fields or the attributes of the house as the area of the house, right? If the field is of an object, the reference of the field is copied. See the reference, we talk about reference, right? Remember, in an object you can have like field as primitive type and field as the object type. If it's an object type, then the reference is copied. If it's primitive, it's always going to be actual values, okay? According to the statements. For example, I have the attributes called when built, which is the date, right? Date is what? Object, right? Because this is a class, right? It's not primitive type, right? We talked about last class primitive type and the class type, right? So pretty much everything else except those 8 primitive values we cover, those are objects. Easy, right? So its reference is copied into house 2 as shown in figure 13.6. Let's look at, okay. So house 1 dot when built equals, this is comparing house 2 dot when built, this returns true. Although house 1, if I compare house 1 and house 2, it's going to return false. So this is referred as a shallow copy rather than a deep copy. Meaning that if the field is of an object type, the object's reference is copied rather than its contents. Right? Shallow copy is just only do reference, right? So let's look at a picture, then you understand more. So even though house 1, right, ID equals 1, area same value 1750.5, when built, we not really store the value, we only store the reference to the object when built, date object contents, right? So this is it called a shallow copy, right? So when we do house 2 equals to house 1 dot clone, you see it's only point to the object. See that? When built, because it's an object. This is primitive, is actual value, these two. Now if you look at B, the deep copy actually copy the contents, right? Not pointing to where it is. That's it. That's why I just showed you pointing to or the actual content, right, being copied. Makes sense? All right. So that's pretty much it. Any questions so far? So that's something that you should understand, right, when you do clone. Otherwise, if you don't understand, then you don't understand this behavior, right? Hey, why comparing and I still get false? Even house 1 and house 2, they all have the same values. You're getting false because it's shallow copy. It's not the same, right? Okay? And you see this all the time when you do compare two strings. You may see even it's exactly the same, why it's false. That's why you have to do dot equals instead of two symbol equals. Two symbol equals, like comparison, should use for the primitive type only.
So when we say a reference, I just want to understand. So the content is this, the reference means like in, like what is different? Like its
Okay.
ID is different? Like
What's your name?
Farnas.
Farnas. When I say Farnas, that's reference to you.
Right.
That's the reference.
Correct. I don't know how to
So
say it.
house 2 is a reference. If they wanted to call on house 2 or something on a larger scale, house 2 would be reference and the contents would be
House 1. So, what's your email? What's your email? Fana@gmail.com. That could reference to you too.
Right.
That's a reference. It's not actual you, but it's reference to you. Make sense? The name is just actual reference to you, but it's not you. But I can refer to you by name, by email, by phone number, but it's all go to you. Reference to you. If I want to talk to you, I just email you. I want to talk to you, I just call you. In the classroom, I just call your name. It's all reference to you. When I say Matthew, Is it to you now? Then it's going to be Matthew, not you anymore. And I can say, someone has to be out here and do the presentation of loops, remember? I refer to someone now, reference to someone.
Right.
Who is that guy? Who's that guy? Songlin. Songlin is reference to him again. That makes sense? It's a good example, right? It's reference to him, right? The man in the yellow shirt. The man in the Valentine shirt. The girl in the Valentine shirt. Who? The girl in the Valentine shirt. Valentine shirts. There's someone in the Valentine shirt in this classroom. And the girl. You know, right? It's referred to you, right? You see that? That's a reference. Make sense?
I understand that, but when we clone two objects,
Yeah, just keep alias.
I assume that the values are same, but something else is different that we call it reference.
It's pointing to the other one's values. Like it doesn't have the content for when built. It just points to house one when built.
Understood.
Yeah, because we don't want to waste the memory space to start the whole thing. Like this is wasting, right? Because same content, right? Think about if this is like occupy 1 gigabyte of information, you lose 2 gigabyte instead of just pointer. Okay? And I think it's any other questions? All right, I think it's Valentine's Day, so what we need to look at is just go back and what's your class exercise that you had to submit, right? Which one is that now? Course documents, right? Chapter, it should be chapter 7, right? We work on chapter 7.
7's due today.
Is it today, right?
No, it's due next week. 5 is due today.
5 due today, okay. 7 next week. All right.